Hello crafters, this is Yana Smakula. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing shaped cards in the shape of paintbrushes and paint palettes. We are safe. I started doing daily shorts on YouTube where I post our status updates, life updates, and all sorts of daily things. And you can watch these videos on my YouTube channel. I'll try to keep these tutorial videos free from the war updates because I do make these videos in advance, and by the time this video goes live, my life update might not be current. But please know we are safe, and I am so grateful for all of your messages, your kind words, and your support. You guys keep us going. The paintbrushes are actually made into shaped cards. They open and offer a little bit of space on the inside to write a small message. These paintbrushes can be used as a decor piece in our craft rooms or can be given as a little card gift to a crafty friend. They can stand on their own, although they aren't very stable if positioned vertically, but they do stay in place nicely when positioned horizontally. I made these paintbrushes and I will show you how in just a minute. I made them using dies from the new Paint Your World collection from Vicky P, and I've linked Vicky's YouTube channel here. So the collection is from Vicky and Spellbinders. This is the main die set that I used. It is also my favorite set from this collection. This set has the largest paintbrush. There are other sets in this collection and they all include paintbrushes, but those paintbrushes are all smaller. This one is the largest paintbrush in this set is called Painted Blooms. If you make a paintbrush using this die set, and if you want to put it on a card, just keep in mind that it will not fit on an A2 card unless you make the bristles much shorter. But this paintbrush will fit on a mini slimline or regular slimline or 5x7 card. This paintbrush handle die includes beautiful wood grain detail, and you'll need to be sure to dry emboss your die cut once you cut it out to have the detail show better. I mean, you don't have to dry emboss, but if you do dry emboss it, then you have more of this beautiful detail. These two die cuts, for example, are slightly different. One on the left is embossed. You can see the wood grain detail a little bit better, and one on the right is just cut out. You can still see the detail, but it just isn't as prominent. Also, the thicker the cardstock you use, the better the detail will show. Next, this piece is one to create bristles, and it is designed so that you can add as many bristles or as few bristles as you like. You can layer them and make a really full brush. I find that 5 die cuts are enough. I adhere 3 in a row and then 2 more on top, but I offset them. Next, these 2 pieces are there for you to finish your paintbrush. And I like to cut the top one from metallic cardstock and bottom one from colored cardstock to indicate what color paint this brush is to be used for. The other elements in this die set are there to create various florals and leaves, and I'm not using them. I am using some older dies from my stash to dress up these paintbrushes. I love to stretch my supplies. I also have my all-time favorite dies, so I used those to decorate the paintbrushes. There are 3 more paintbrush die sets in this collection. I have them all on this magnetic sheet. This is one set. I use the paint drip die from here, and I think this is a genius die. It can be used alone on so many different projects for very cool effects, and I think this set is worth getting just for that paint drip die alone. I used the paint drip on the blue paintbrush. I layered 2 pieces to cover the entire width of the bristles, and this set is called Artful Brush. So that's one set. This is another set with the paintbrush and butterflies. And this is yet another set with the paintbrush and tulips. And I really love the simplicity of the tulips. There is also a stamp set with beautiful sentiments to complement this collection. I'm not using the stamp set as I wanted to add a thank you sentiment to each of these cards, and I wanted my sentiments to be foiled, so I did not use any sentiments from this set. But they are designed to coordinate with the paintbrushes and the paint palette, and basically to help you create meaningful sentiments on your projects when using these dies. Now, I see so many people helping us, sending money, sending help, praying, and I sometimes feel hopeless. So what I try to do is I try to make cards, and I think of the time when I will be able to mail the cards. Right now, the post offices obviously do not work, and no mail is going out or in except for humanitarian aid, although I did receive a package with my Organize More storage unit several days ago, and I was the happiest crafter on earth. But I do dream of the time when things will be back to normal and I will be able to send cards. So I want to create thank you cards for people who have helped us. That's probably an unrealistic task because there are so many of you who have helped us. Nonetheless, that's my intention, and that's why these paintbrushes have thank you sentiments. I used 4 paintbrush die cuts to create one paintbrush card. 2 pieces for each side, front and back. I used 2 pieces to add sturdiness to the paintbrush, otherwise it was a little bit too flimsy. Of course, it all depends on the thickness of the cardstock you use and also on the number of embellishments you put on top of your paintbrush. I went pretty heavily with the flowers, so these paintbrushes have some weight to them and thus they needed extra support. I first glued the bristles onto the front of my front die cut. I find that to work better versus gluing them to the back of the die cut. Next, I added the metal piece and the colorful and piece. Then I backed this paintbrush with another paintbrush die cut, and that added a lot of stability to this piece. To create the back of my card, I glued 2 pieces together. The paintbrush die cut is symmetrical, so you can glue them back to back and hide the back side of your die cuts. Next, I used a scoring tool and scored the top of the paintbrush handle at about 1/4 inch from the top, and this created the hinge for the card base. I folded it and then used glue to adhere the 2 pieces together to create my shaped card base. Pretty easy, and you have yourself a uniquely shaped card. Plus, I love the size of this paintbrush. It's so big. It is very true to real life size. Now, we have a curfew here in Ukraine, and all lights have to be switched off at 9 p.m. I am very used to crafting in the evenings and at night, so I find myself crafting using just the light from my laptop or the light from a candle. I prepped everything for this video last night in the dark, and I even pre-planned the element placement for this paintbrush, and then I took a photo for reference with my phone. So now I'm using that photo to place the elements on the paintbrush as I originally planned, and you can see the photo is pretty dark. First, I added the paint drip piece. I cut that from green cardstock to match the color of the end piece of my paintbrush. Next, I added large lemon leaves. Now, these come from the lemon zest die set. If you remember, I shared a video using that set in January. I love the design and the size of these leaves. And the leaves are 2 colors. So you can see there's a lighter green and a darker green. Love it. I used a foam square and popped the leaves up on my paintbrush. They created a beautiful backer for my flowers. Next, I foam mounted the flowers. I used my favorite mini blooms and sprigs die set to make these. Now, if you don't have this die set from Spellbinders, I highly recommend it. It is my absolute favorite die set for small flowers, and I have been using it non-stop for pretty much lots of my cards. I have a link to that set below. Next, I added a foiled butterfly. The butterfly comes from a newish set from Spellbinders. It was released in February. It is called Glimmer Edge Butterflies. And if you look closely, you'll notice that the foiling goes all the way to the edge of the die cut. It is very unique and absolutely beautiful. I wanted to create a couple of cards using this butterfly set and the other dies and glimmer plates from that collection, but I didn't have any time, and then the war started, and so, well, here we are. Now I wanted to add some additional bristles to the back of the card, so I added 3 more pieces, and then I added a metal piece from the back as well, just to keep things consistent. So here's the set with the butterfly. There are 2 glimmer butterflies included, and there are coordinating dies to cut them out. And you also have some flower and leaf dies to embellish your butterflies. Very nice set for some spring and summer cards. The paintbrush is nearly done. I just want to add a sentiment. And as I said, I really wanted to make these into thank you paintbrushes. I foiled a thank you sentiment from the Sentiments for Everyday set from Spellbinders in matte gold foil, the same as I used for the butterfly. And my foiling was done on Spellbinders Specialty Glimmer cardstock. I love that paper for foiling. It foils perfectly every time. Now, this sentiment set includes 11 different messages for various occasions, and then 6 of them have coordinating dies. The one I used here did not have a coordinating die, but I used a label die from another set. This is Sentiment Labels die set from Spellbinders. This is a new set that just released recently. And I did partial die cutting to cut this sentiment out. Now, the label was too long, so I shortened it using that partial die cutting. Now, this die set is from a new collection from Spellbinders called Celebrate You. And that collection includes several basics for any card maker like tags, labels, and even some additional sentiments. So that's the label that I used here. And I'm looking forward to using the rest of the labels because, like I said, they are very basic and they work for pretty much any project. I added a piece of gray twine to the sentiment label, and oh my gosh, guys, when was the last time I used twine on my cards? That was probably years and years ago. But I'm glad I kept my twine because it worked perfectly for this card. I did struggle a little bit with tying the bow. It did not want to tie perfectly, but I managed. And then I added a foam square to the back of my label and adhered it onto the card. I also added a dot of glue to the bow to make sure it would stay up and would not come undone. Now, at this point, our paintbrush is not going to stand. To make it stand, we need to create a flat cut in the back flap, just like so. We're cutting off that rounded end of the paintbrush and creating a flat end, allowing our brush to stand. Here are my other paintbrushes. I have a blue and a yellow one, and all 3 of these are shaped cards. You can open them and there's a little bit of space on the inside to write a message. Now I have one more shaped card idea for you using a paint palette die. This is another die set from the Paint Your World collection from Vicky, and it is called Painter's Palette, and it is a giant die and works perfectly for creating shaped cards. To make a shaped card, you need to take an A2 card base, so an already scored and folded card base, and position the die so that one side of the paint palette goes outside the edge of the card where the fold of your card is. You see where I have the die sticking out outside the edge of my card? That's where there is the fold of my card. I did use a little bit of tape to make sure I taped it all in place and nothing would move. And so when you cut it, that particular part will not cut and thus will give me a hinge for my shaped card base. These are super easy to make and you can make a bunch of these in just minutes. Now in this die set, you also have a paint tube. It's a very nice size and you can actually use just the paint tube alone for other projects. There's also a slim paintbrush, also a very pretty one with lots of detail to it. And then you have assortment of dies to create little paint squirts. I've already put these together. I die cut another paint palette piece. This time it's a full piece, and I've decorated it using all of the dies included in this set. I did that last night in the dark. It was fun. I am being actually sarcastic here because it was not fun crafting in the dark, as you can barely tell the colors of the cardstock you're using, but I wanted to do something and that's what I did. Anyhow, I added flowers to some of the paint squirts as I wanted this to be a floral palette. I also added a foiled sentiment. It comes from the same set as does the thank you sentiment. And this particular sentiment has a coordinating die, so I cut it out using that die and I popped it up using a solid layer of fun foam. I also added a foiled butterfly onto the paint tube, again from the same set as the other butterfly, and that finished my card. So these are the shaped cards that I have for you today, created using Vicky's Paint Your World collection with Spellbinders. I hope you'll give these ideas a try, either using these products or whatever products you may have in your stash. Just go look through your supplies. Maybe you feel inspired. Maybe you have something similar and you want to create shaped cards. Go ahead and make the shaped cards. If you make something inspired by this video, I would love it if you shared it online and tagged me. I always love seeing what you guys are making. Thanks so much for joining me today. Love you guys, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye.